So I'll go first and explain to Shachar, but you can all hear that. The question is not how you protect the information you store. It's whether you actually need to store it in the first place. Because saying we have the best protection and the best security in the world won't help you when you have an inside breach, when you have a data breach. And if we're looking to avoid it, what we will be doing later on is ask, why did we store this information? Was it necessary to store this specific information beforehand? Now, if you go to biometrics, you think about it. When you lose your fingerprint, you lose your access. But we'll go to that later in the panel. What I want to present to you when we're talking about actually machine-readable privacy agreements is to first let you understand what happens in the real world. This is a research I conducted in 2013 where I went and inspected actually, I'll skip all the big issues and explain to you. Most of you have applications on your phone. You install them without hesitation, without reading the privacy policies. I write them. I know how much people read them and how much time people invest in it. Now, most of these applications monetize on your information. They take information they have on you, like your gender, your age, your preferences, your location, and display ads according to it. What I inspected is whether people are willing to pay for privacy and what's the difference between paid apps and non-paid apps, and how does this relate? First of all, privacy policies are a lie. Why are they a lie? This is a conversation I conducted with a CEO of a big company in Israel that has a service. And it's a link sharing service where you share a link and then you have a sidebar of more interesting articles you may read, something like Outbrain, Tabula, etc. And I told the blogger who shared a link through it, don't do it. It stores my personal information when I click the link, and it goes to third parties. And then the CEO of the company interrupted and says, well, I'm one of the founders. I want to tell you and assure you, no personal information is stored. And I told him, well, listen, I went ahead and I read your privacy policy, what most people don't do. And your privacy policy says that you do share it with third parties, you do monetize on my behalf, you do collect data, and you do track me. And then he says, well, it's just a thing lawyers say. I don't believe people who say that. Why don't I believe people who say that? Because, first of all, I'm a lawyer, and I know how I write privacy policies. I know that when I sit down with one of my clients, I map the application, I see what data does he collect, how he takes it out, how he moves it onward. Now, when I do that, I write it in an agreement that none of you read, but when we get to court, I can show that agreement to the judge. The problem is not just that people don't read this agreement, but that you don't have any way to monitor your data. For example, if I sent Deepak my picture, and I want him to have my picture, but I don't want him to share it with other people, then I don't have the possibility to do that because the file itself doesn't have these properties. If I register to this event and I put my phone in, but I don't want my phone number being transferred to other people, I can't control it technologically. So while there's a nice agreement that says the people in IEEE are very nice, very professional, they won't take your phone number and send it to robocall advertisers, there's no technology behind that statement. It's faith in people. Now, I don't have faith in people because people are the weakest link between technological interfaces. A person sitting on the computer is prone to phishing attacks. He's prone to man-in-the-middle attacks. He's prone to abuse, people paying him money to take this information out. Now, if the technology itself would have restricted the conveying of the information between party A and party B, or if I had control on how information could be conveyed, then my preferences would control the flow of my personal information. Now, my suggestion for later on discussion relating privacy agreements says as follows. We need to draft a standard that says that attaches itself to personal information, to the files, to your call records and the cell phone company, to your browser, to your phone, which says, well, I allow you to track my location, but don't store it in your database. Or do store it, but don't send it to other people. Or don't store it, don't send it to other people, and ask me every time. I want this preference to be saved, and when I submit information, I choose how this information could be passed along the way. This can only happen if a metadata layer will be added to each information we send. It's something that's quite lengthy. It's something that might require a lot of work later on technologically, but it's the only way to ensure that no abuse is made, because currently a privacy policy will say we may use your personal information in order to generate revenue and in order to create additional advertisements. We may use your photo for advertisements. That's what Facebook said in a point in time. And when they say that, you don't know exactly. You know they may, and they use vague words. And as a lawyer, vague words are okay if you're on the strong side because you can be as vague as you want. But when you want to protect the consumer, when you want the users to have the power, you need specifics. Now, if you don't have these specifics, saying, I don't want anyone to know my gender. I don't care if they know my age, but my gender is restricted only to the first layer, then you can't control it. Every piece of information should be attached to this and should be made like this. And why? Let me show you our popular apps from the survey I conducted. What I did is I went ahead and downloaded the top 30 free apps and top 30 paid apps from the Google Play Store. And I downloaded, well, a naughty boy like me, I downloaded torrents with 400 top paid apps, 400 another bunch of paid apps, and an ancient app pack, which is something from 2011, and the server was 2013. This was the comparison point to see what happened between 2011 and 2013. What I found is that the top paying apps, the top free apps require an extensive amount of permissions, which are very, very different than free apps, than the paid apps. You can see here that around, let's go with a location, we're talking about 20% of the general application requiring location, but 43% of the top applications. And if you go to paid applications, you see that it's less, meaning that the more popular you are, the more incentive you have to monetize on personal information. And we don't care if people monetize and they get our consent, but we do need some way to control it. And the only way to control it is not by enacting laws, it's by restricting or creating a standard for technology that people will feel protected if they know that that software is compliant with that standard. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Jonathan. I don't know about you, but I like very much where this discussion is going, and I think we actually building a very interesting multi-dimensional structure. So let's see how it goes, and I'll then ask a question to the panel, because I think I already have a question I really, really would like you guys to answer. So